So, copy of minutes, meeting has been posted on the website. Copies of committee reports have been posted on the website. We have 3 communications, and now we have reports. There's Liz can't make it. She's not feeling well. I forget if she said she was in there. She didn't say she's gonna. Liz, is she online? No. No. So I guess this means, she said, if there are any questions, please send her an email. So I guess she will not be presenting tonight. And I don't see our fireman here, so we'll go right to the police.
Oh, write it down in history. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So attached, body-worn camera reports don't indicate any training needs at this time. For use of force incidents for the month of February was 1. The subject with an arrest warrant tried to flee. One of our officers drew the taser, gave commands, and we were able to arrest the subject without further incident or any taser use or anything. But for us, we still indicate that as a use of force for us. Number of arrests were 27 for 31 total charges. Number of emotionally disturbed person calls was 10, and number of drug overdoses or suspected drug overdoses was 1, with 1 incident of administered Narcan. And that subject was brought back and then transferred to the hospital. No accidents involving pedestrians for the month of February. And then the parking office construction has been underway and should be completed by the end of the week.
Yeah, I was wondering, the number of arrests, the number of arrests and number of incidents, is that like also number of uniques? So is that like the same, is it 27 different people, or is it 1 person multiple times, or?
It could be 1 person multiple times. The number of incidents could also involve the same number of people. It may just mean that even though there was a crime committed, it didn't necessarily end in an arrest, because either the victim didn't want the person arrested or some other circumstance.
Any other questions from the council? From the public? Claire has a question. Oh, okay. Claire?
I'm Shonda. For the overdoses, is that the same overdose that you used Narcan on, or was there an overdose death plus a Narcan use incident?
That was the same incident.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
No, any other hands up? No. Public? No. Okay, thank you, Chief.
well, thank you.
I'm shocked that our firemen aren't here. Maybe they're.
They were just on call.
Oh, okay, that's a fine excuse for not being there. Rob, are you there? Did you come back? Do you think it was done tonight?
He's not on.
Maybe not. How about Heather?
I didn't see her.
Heather's there. Okay.
I'm here.
There you go.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Woo. Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay, can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, hold on, I'm just making it possible for me to actually see my screen now. Okay, so looking at the 2024 numbers again, and again, these numbers are not finalized. A lot of the revenue numbers that you're looking at are. Plumbing and building permits, as you can see, came in at about 91% of budget. I believe the building permits number increased by maybe $7,000 from last month as a chargeback, but not much. And in on and off street parking, you can see we're at 1.1 million, which is 104% of budget. And I believe the only number that changed there versus year ago was, I think parking tickets went up, but these are pretty close to the numbers you saw last month. So I don't really anticipate any changes to those going forward. Sales tax, the only thing that is missing here will be two things. One is charging back the balance of the cannabis tax. We did get one more payment, only, I believe it's only through November. So we may only be able to charge that amount back, and then we may have to do the last part even later. So I can't give you a lot of visibility on that, but I believe the money that we got was about $37,000 for, I think it was September, October, and November. So that has not been charged back yet, I don't believe. Mortgage tax and sales tax are settled. So you can see that we ended up with approximately $100,000 less in sales tax that we had anticipated. And then lodging tax, we're at $439, but there's still we basically take a half of the first quarter. So in this case, the first quarter of 2025, we will take half of that revenue and charge it back to 2024 because the majority of the filing for that period is for the prior year. Obviously, the filings all, somebody could have a delinquent filing, so it's not an apples to apples, but as long as we do something consistently, the auditors are okay with it. So we will have an additional chargeback on that. I did look at what it was last year, and our chargeback was about 68,000. So given the fact that we're, quite a bit lower year to date than we were a year ago, I'm going to guess somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 will be an additional chargeback for that, but we won't know until the end of this month.
So Heather, lodging tax, we're going to end up probably at best around maybe 85% of budget?
Another 10, yeah, 80 to 85%, I would guess. So, we've been actively working, there's a lot entailed in trying to close out 2024, and we're not there yet. There's a lot of different things that come into play. But I wanted to give you sort of a rough idea of where we might be. So if you look at the 2024 final budget, you will see that the use of fund balance was $2.2 million. And that basically, we started with about $700,000 to balance the 2024 budget. Then we had another $600,000 of encumbrances. You're going to see an encumbrance resolution tonight for this year. I don't want to get too complicated, but the encumbrance, when we talk about fund balance, there's different types of fund balance, which I'm going to get to in a minute. So that 600 and change in encumbrances that got charged against is actually its own kind of fund balance line item in the financials. So it doesn't really impact the unrestricted fund balance. But, there's, as you see and you approve budget amendments throughout the year, and they can be as small as a couple thousand or as large as, a couple $100,000. So this year in particular, we had a few pretty significant budget modifications that are impacting that number. One of the biggest ones was actually unfortunately due to the death of Officer Philly, and the required payouts that we had to make was over $200,000. So that was clearly unbudgeted. Additional debt service on what is supposed to be the short-term borrowing for the DRI projects was another $220,000. So we've talked about this multiple times in the past, but that $10 million has probably cost us between $750 and $1 million at this point, because we can only borrow short term for so long. And after we borrow for a second year, we have to start paying principal down. So that was another quarter, almost $250,000 there. You probably all remember that we allocated 70 grand to do some very quick short-term pre-sidewalk improvement district ADA sidewalk improvements because we were under pressure. So that was like another 70 grand there. Those are pretty much the biggest ones. But you know, those, the first two alone, it's $500,000 right there of unanticipated and unbudgeted accounts. The nice thing is certainly for the filling number, that is not going to be a number that repeats itself going forward. It's a one-time expense. And, you know, at some point, the DRI monies and short-term borrowing and the costs associated with that will go away as well. So taking a hit in 2024, but neither of those things are going to project to be ongoing costs in the future. So that's a good thing. Yes.
Can we go to the grant that keeps on taking?
What's the question?
It was a good about it. Can we call the DRI the grant that keeps on taking?
Yeah, the grant that keeps on, exploding maybe. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, and I'll give you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, we're never going to get paid back for the interest that we're accruing for the DRI.
Correct. We're not going to get paid back for the interest, and we're not going to get paid back for any of the principal we had to come out of pocket for. So again, in the big picture, if you said, hey, for, you know, $750,000, you can have $10 million, I think we'd all say still a good deal, but it just is, you know, when you think it's 100% reimbursable, it turns out it's not. So, but again, ideally.
No, that $10 million went to the city, it went to other people as well. Right. Any more? Are you done, Heather?
No.
Okay.
So,
sorry.
okay.
Heather, before you leave the fund balance, you have the ending fund balance 2023. What is the ending fund balance for 2024?
We don't know yet. We're not going to know that until all the revenues and all the expenditures are finalized. But I did give you a ballpark estimate here. So like I said, in the 2024 budget, we had basically $2.2 million of fund balance anticipated to be used. My very, very rough assumption right now is we're going to use more like 1 million of that. So I do anticipate a decline in the unrestricted fund balance, but not to the extent that we projected, you know, with the original budget and the budget amendments. And what I just showed you is I showed you what the ending fund balance of 2023 was. So it's a total of 5.9 million.
Heather,
You were cut off for a while. So you,
Oh.
can you go back? Relax.
Yes. Where did I lose you? Sorry.
well, we heard that you had a rough estimate here, that you were thinking about 1 million would be used, and then we lost you.
Okay, so yes, so anticipating that about 1 million will be used, so not that 2.2, and you know, I wanted to show you what the total fund balance was at the end of last fiscal year. So it was 5.9 million, of which 3.9 million was unrestricted fund balance. And if you look at the GFOA, the Government Financial Officers Association, says that a rule of thumb for unrestricted fund balance is at minimum 2 months reserve. So I did a ballpark estimate of what that would be based on the 2025 budget. So they would say we'd like to see at least 2.6 million in there. So it looks like we're going to be within that boundary. And, you know, one of the things that's been interesting about the budgets and the discussions we've been having around them is that we have included in the budgets both the revenues and the expenditures completely reimbursable programs. So like it's basically, you know, Rob Perry stuff like CHIPS, pave our potholes, state touring routes, and so forth. I mean, one could argue, and I think the BEA will make this decision for the 2025 budget, whether we want to include those at all or just do them as budget amendments, because they are completely revenue neutral, but it does sort of give the sense of an artificial inflation of the budget when it's really just, here are program costs and here's the money that's going to cover the program costs. So if I take out the CHIPS money that's in the 2025 budget, which I think is roughly, I'm going to say $800,000 or so, yeah, about almost $870,000, that 2 months would drop down to about 2.5 million. So that's roughly where we are today. Like I said, there's still a lot of work to be done to get to that final number, but I think it's going to be in that ballpark. And, you know, we will have a much better sense. We have to file the annual AFR to New York State by June 1st, and then the audit is scheduled for mid-July. So we'll have at least an initial confirmation for June 1st in terms of what we're reporting. There are a couple significant differences between how the state requires us to report certain amounts of fund balance and how the audit does. But at least we know what those differences are. So once we create the New York reporting structure, I can do a ballpark estimate of how it will actually look in the audited financial statements. And that basically just has to do with the fact that if we have too many interfund loans outstanding for any length of time, the state wants us to describe them as not in spendable form, which is one of the subsections, but the audit doesn't look at it that way. So if you look at the 2023, you'll see in the New York State thing, we have unspendable of about like 2.7 million, but we only have, we have significantly less in the financial audit. And it just basically swings between non-spendable and unreserved. I know that's a lot of sort of technicality stuff there, but it is confusing if you look at the two reports and wonder why there's a $2 million swing between these two numbers. Great, I'm gonna move on to 2025. Not much to talk about yet. You know, we're only through January and February, so not seeing a lot of action. So plumbing and building permits, we're at about 6% of budget, but 10% above a year ago. Parking, we're at about 10%. I kept the sales, cannabis, mortgage, and lodging tax thing here, but obviously we haven't incurred any of those numbers yet. So you're going to see, so that's basically it right now for the 2024 and the 2025 financials. In terms of resolutions, you're going to see 4 resolutions tonight. One is a budget amendment. So basically, if you all realize or remember, you authorized the purchase of a pumper truck back in the day. It was supposed to be delivered in May or June of this year. It's been delayed for over a year. In the meantime, the fire department had plans to sell their old truck, their old rescue dive truck off, and we're going to take that money and put it against the debt service of the new pumper truck. But if they sell, and they have a buyer for it, so they would like to execute that sale. The problem is that truck has rescue tools on it that are going to go with the truck when it's sold, which means the fire department won't have those rescue tools, which they need. So the original pumper truck agreement included those tools. They've come to an agreement between the tool provider and the manufacturer of the truck that we can basically get the tools now, and that price comes right off the cost of the pumper truck as a whole, which means we come out with a little more money now, but we don't have to finance as much when we get the truck. So our debt service will be less on that. The second one is just for fireboat delivery. It's they also sold a small old vehicle for about $7,000. The resolution it says that it goes to their equipment account. So they would like to take, I think, 4,600 of it and get their new fireboat delivered instead of having to go pick it up. And then the rest is also going to go to help, not much, but everything counts, to help offset that pumper truck debt. The third one is a budget transfer. You approved a contract for parking mobility consultants last month. I made an error and said that we didn't need a budget adjustment for it because it's a capital project. And usually when we have a capital project, we move the entire funding for the capital project into the capital fund. This is a unique situation where That hasn't been done. So we only moved the amount into the capital fund to cover the original T2 agreement. So this just moves the extra $7,500 for that agreement plus $500 for, incidentals into that capital fund. And that's coming out of the money that was set aside for the parking project. So, and then finally, the tried and true March encumbrances and related budget judgments from the 2004 to 2005. So basically what that is any grants that are still outstanding when we were, and any donations that have not been spent because they are committed to certain specific requirements. And then any contractual agreements that the city has entered into in fiscal year 2024 that will not be received until after the books are closed on 2025. So it's only for commitments that were already made, and those commitments were made within the budget constraints of the 2024 budget. So that's just a timing issue. I'm not going to go too much into the rest of it. As you know, our technology is changing right and left. We're in the middle of converting our general ledger software, hoping to go live with that at the end of the month. We still have to we have to get back to utility billing, and then we have to get to tax collection. The good news is on the lodging tax side, as of our upgraded their platform, they've gotten very good results in terms of the people coming in and re-registering on the new platform. And we did, in fact, end up changing the expiration date of the certificate of authority to March 31st, which just, there was a limbo month where it kind of expired before they had to register again. So we just fixed that. And I'm not going to go through the rest of this right now. So I think it's all stuff you've seen before.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Any questions from the council?
Heather, the only thing I'd like to say, it would be really helpful, I think, if you would come to the next, with Richard's approval, to the next finance meeting, so that we can spend a little bit more time understanding some of the current grants that are out there and so forth. But if you could come to our next finance meeting, that would be really appreciated.
Okay, I'm certainly willing to do that. If you can send me the time and the date, and if there's something specific you want me to address, please let me know ahead, and I'll try and pull something together for you.
Okay, great. Appreciate that. Thank you.
What kind of grants we have and exposure?
We'll put some
We'll put some
together.
together.
Yeah, we'll put something together and then I'll look back with you.
What do you
Thanks.
think exposure?
What are you asking, Tom?
Is there any federal grants that? That, okay.
Right.
That we may not.
It's very difficult to estimate right now because everything's changing.
We don't know.
But I think I would just like to spend a little time thinking about it.
I have one other finance related question. It's not necessarily for Heather.
Oh, it's not for Heather?
No.
Okay.
We have the events award.
Yes.
Also.
Ooh.
So, I mean, Heather, I emailed Heather, we have we have the 30,000 still in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
So that has to happen, correct? Yeah. Is there anyone else who's doing that, or is finance doing that again? That's it. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's get to the, oh wait, we got Rob. Is Rob there?
Yeah, I'm here, man. I wouldn't leave you.
Take it away, Rob Taylor.
All right. So septic for January was just under $31,000. More, seasonal maintenance. What's that?
Rob, are you going to show your screen?
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry.
Heather, your screen is still showing.
Yeah, Heather. Stop being a screen bully. Stop being a screen bully, Heather. Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
So more maintenance these are the primary clarifiers. These are the gears and cogs that run the cross collectors in the primary and the long flights on the clarifiers, and just more times in the hole, draining that tank down, go down and make sure everything's working fine. A lot of with the really cold weather we had, a lot of damage to these are all plastic, so they end up they're resilient, but not, not fail-proof, especially when it's that cold. So everything's up and running now. We have what's called a belt press, and it is just that. It's two belts, an upper and a lower belt. And what happens is at the end of the process, there's this sludge that's left over. It gets thickened and it gets put between these two belts, and then the two belts go over all of these cams and gears, and it gets squished, and the water gets out of it because we want a dry product to haul to the sanitary landfill at $165 a ton. And we don't want to haul water because water is 8.34 pounds per gallon. And we don't want to pay to haul water across the strait. So this is the last process in our treatment process for the sludge. And we do this every couple of years because the belt starts to wear down and gets pits in it and things of that nature. So this is at the septic receiving station. This is just a grinder. It gives you an idea of kind of how meaty a lot of the things are that we use to process. This is just designed to, pulverize small rocks, things that find their way into the back of the septic trucks, get crushed here, and that way they don't impact or negatively impact any of the pumps or processes down the process control. So, and here's the new one, and you can see, get an idea just how jagged the teeth are, and you can see how they're kind of worn down. So it is a physical process, and these are regular maintenance items. So out at the reservoir, the town did an inspection on a box culvert that's before the dam, and I mean the road's not the best road in the world anyway, but their engineer determined that the bridge itself should be closed immediately. So they called us to inform us, and they said we're gonna get some blocks. I said, well, we got blocks left over from the shared street, so we brought a couple blocks out for them. They mounted their bridge closed sign on it, and they put some other signage on. The road is open up to the bridge. Obviously, at that point, someone would have to turn around and go back the other way. But it's eroded underneath. It's undermined. It's cracked. It's got, it's in severe state of damage. So it was a good call by their engineer. Just more DPW just gives you an idea of some of the maintenance the mechanics work on. This is the underside of a step to get onto one of our backhoes, and this is the replacement piece. Obviously we were finishing out the winter. It was a very active season. We did go through about $25,000 in overtime and about 800 ton of salt. The overtime number is skewed low because the last contract allows guys to take comp time in exchange of overtime. So that looks fine on our budget sheet because, we don't have to pay so much overtime. It doesn't look so great come July or August when we're trying to get projects and work completed, and everybody wants to use all that comp time that they accrued over the winter time. So it is a double-edged sword, it's just something to be mindful of. The process here, when you get an event like we had a couple weeks ago where you get a little snow, a little sleet, a little snow, and it rains, and it goes to 8 degrees, it turns the what's there into basically concrete, and it's a very physical labor. You're not going to pick it up with plows. There's not enough there for the snowblower, and the snowblower would just drive over top of it anyway. So you have to get down on it with a small bucket, pop it up. It breaks into 1,000 pieces. The guys have to shovel it back into the bucket, and then they go and dump it into the truck. So it's labor intensive. We concentrated on the crosswalks, the ADA ramps, ADA parking spots, but a lot of the city just doesn't, when you have cars that don't move, this all turns to ice, and then the sun hits it, it melts a little bit, it melts down the street, freezes at night. So, there was a lot of babysitting. We had a lot of doing salting at various intersections and hills like this one multiple times a day just to try and keep things safe. At one point, there's about 2 feet of frost. This looks like solid rock, but that's actually topsoil that's just frozen. And we had to bring the jackhammer and the impact hammer up there to open this up so that way the bucket could get in there to dig a grave. But we had we had a winter. We had cold temperatures and we had precipitation. once a year, whether we need it or not. Ooh, there's an old one in there. All right. National Grid sent this to me earlier in the week. This is kind of like you remember the massive project that they did last year and the year before. Now that's done, there's only some smaller tie-ins that need to take place. So this section down here is actually off the access road to the prison. So that would have zero impact on the city. That's on the private right of way. And we have some work up here. This long blue line looks kind of nefarious near the park, but it's actually on Long Alley, which is the dead end alley that goes from the old Van Cleeks over to 7th Street. So that's not going to have any impact on traffic. And there are some little areas on State Street, but by and large, nowhere near the project that took place last year and the year before. The bids, we had lots of bids this month. So here's the park. And low bid was Colarusso at 3.15 million. That's for the base bid. The alternate one is actually the fountain and mechanicals associated with the fountain. It's not just like water being recirculated anymore. It has to have a chlorine injection, chlorine analyzers. It's got different drives. It's way more sophisticated, obviously safer than what was there before. So the price about $1 million. The next lowest bidder was Keller, who came in at 3.9, almost 4 million. And so at this point, we're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for the rest of the money to come in. There's, this is a sign we put up for one of the grants that was awarded. And once the finished product package is put together, then city will issue a contract. You'll get a resolution before you to enter into the agreement, and we'll start kicking these off. Another bid open was the chips, and so we had 5 bidders this year, and the low bid was Louisi. Louisi is the company that is currently doing the streetscape project. So, they're a paving company as well. They were $25,000 less than Caruso number 2. So once we have the numbers from the state, which we should expect later on in March, so we know what kind of budget we're dealing with, we'll issue a notice of award, notice to proceed, and we expect them to start work in April, and we'd like to see it finished up by mid-May. It's not a particularly huge project or challenging, so they should move quickly.
Rob, I had a question on chips, if you don't mind, if you could stay on that for a second. So when I think it was like last month or before, Worth Avenue is on the list to be repaid, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So on Worth, there are a number of manholes that have been recessed below the level of the street. Is that something that's going to be addressed in the repaving? Will that be corrected?
We do that beforehand. We go through all the manholes, the water valves, and the catch basins. We make repairs to all those infrastructure before the paving project starts. So they've been working on some of the other roads already.
But I know that there are some on Worth, and that is contributing to the vibrations in the houses.
I said yes once. You want me to say it again?
I'm just wanting to
Yes.
confirm that.
Yeah. We do that. We're doing that on all the streets. They start at the bottom and usually work their way up.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Bid number 3 was for this was for the Figari, which you already had your special meeting and approval. Thank you. These are just the complete bidders list. The lowest bid was rejected. They were significantly lower, which is what it is, but they were unable to comply with any of the minority or women-owned business goals that are mandated by the Department of State. So they were rejected. The next lowest bidder, which was Dan's Hauling, is $115,000. However, that building 7, that's the one that's out in the water, alone was $50,000, which is why I chose to bid it as a unit price rather than a lump sum, because the budget that we have left is about $105,000, $110,000. So this would have exceeded our financing, and by removing that one building, now the project is down to 64,000. His MBE requirement is 34, which he says he can meet, or I'm sorry, it ends up being about 20, which he says he's comfortable meeting. So that's why it's the lower amount, and that's why it's the second lowest bidder. Ferries, others, but Ferry Street Bridge. So we all know that this was, our goal was to have this thing open by Thanksgiving. That didn't happen. There was a lot of delays with Amtrak with their permitting. There was a lot of delays getting equipment, and there was a lot of extra work that was involved on behalf of the engineer. So what we have is a change order request for the engineer. These are, some of the details of extra, things that should have been done relatively easily, but took an awful lot of effort by them. It's 3 pages, and then there's a whole new agreement, but the net change order is $111,000. We'll be submitting that to DOT as part of a change for our supplemental agreement number 3. But like I said, the contractor, we don't expect to have an increase because everything that they purchased. There's no real surprises there outside of the delays in getting the stuff, but there was a lot of additional work for the engineer. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a similar discussion about the streetscape project, because there's been a lot of changes and real-time things that, there's not a whole lot left in their contract for arterial and the engineers on that side either. But for now, this is one that I'll put forth next week in the form of a resolution, but just giving you kind of a week to digest the puts and the calls. And other than that, just a brief construction overview. So Complete Streets, we kind of expect them to start in April. They should conclude late June. The scope of their project is really the intersection at 2nd and Warren, which is a massive change. All those sidewalks on the corners are gone, and they're all going to have bump outs. So that is going to be a significant change to that whole intersection. Also, the Warren Street and Front Street Plaza, which is a major improvement. And so although there's only 2 real intersections to be started from scratch, they're both the most labor intensive and challenging. So that starts in April. They should be done in June sometime. The milling and paving project, as I stated, starts in April, should be concluded in mid-May. The Ferry Street project starts in April. That should be concluded in either late May or early June. And the 7th Street Park project is on hold until we get the money. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Rob. Councilmember. No? Public? Okay, thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
The sidewalk project, that's the Safe Streets, that's not the coming out of the,
No,
like,
it's not the sidewalk improvement district. No, separate. So now we have a special presentation from our own Jennifer Belton, who is going to update us on all the great work she's been doing on the parking project.
All right, so most of you have received from me the document, the parking plan document, twice, once in November and then again last month. One of our goals was to create a parking bureau that's standalone, right now things are kind of split between 3 different departments. This would be all brought together under the umbrella of the HPD. And we heard from Chief Franklin today that the space that is being allocated for that is underway and almost done. So that's fantastic. So that's exciting news. That was one thing that's almost done. Phase 1 is going to be, we're hoping for maybe the spring. All of our kiosks for phase 1 and 2 have been ordered and are in the warehouse at DPW, so they've already arrived, so we can get started. But we just need to hammer out a couple of details before they're installed. And so phase one is the Amtrak long-term lot across from Amtrak, which is the South Front Street Municipal parking lot. And phase two is Warren Street between First and Third, and Worth between Worth and Prospect, and then the municipal lot on Union Street. So that's 1 and 2. Phase three will, we're hoping to begin in the summer. We have not ordered the kiosks for that, but once we get going and see that everything's working out okay, that the text to pay system works and the kiosks are great, we'll go ahead and order those, and that should be a pretty quick process because we've already done one. So that's cool. As far as pricing is concerned, we've already changed the pricing at the South Front Street lot. We've done away with permits. People were getting a really spectacular deal for a very long time. They were paying $1,000 a year, which if you only parked in that parking lot 4 days a week, you were getting a good deal. It was costing you about $2.74, whereas everyone else was paying $10 to park there every day. So that particular kiosk will be programmed at $10 a day or $50 a week. People can use text to pay now from their phone, or they can continue to use the Park Mobile app. The short-term parking lots, which are intended for local business workers and residents, that will go up to 75 cents as per the parking committee. I also wanted just to add, we have some of the lowest parking rates in the entire Hudson Valley. For example, Albany is $2.30 an hour. Kingston is $1.30 an hour. Cold Spring, $2 an hour. Rhinebeck is $1. We're thinking that we'd like to raise the rate to $1 per hour, and after 2 hours, it goes up to $2. Just to encourage people not to park in the same spot for more than 2 hours. We will also be offering a preferred parking program for people with disabilities or who are over the age of 65. So that should be, I think that's a great addition. Just to give you an idea of and these are really just broad strokes. After phase one and permit phase out, we potentially gain about 150,000 a year or more. Phase two and the addition of 5 kiosks, or the addition of kiosks to 5 additional blocks, we have the potential to create 50% more revenue for on-street parking. After phase 3 and the replacement of our meters with kiosks, and the adjustment of the fees, we will double our revenue for on-street parking. The increase in short-term municipal park revenue will be an additional 50%. This will also streamline our system, and it's going to hopefully create less bureaucracy because there won't be multiple systems working at once, as there are now. And yeah, so it'll all be one system, long-term, short-term, and on-street parking. And people will have the ability to pay by cash, credit card, change. They can pay by their phone. They can text to pay to extend their their time at a certain spot. So, yeah, I think it's pretty exciting. We're gonna have one kiosk per side of the street, per block, so 2 per block. And then there will be signage at either end of each block to direct you to the kiosk that's in the center of the block. If you wanna, let's go to, oh, actually, these are all, if you can see, I know Gary has it in front of him, but, these are all the pictures of phase 1 and phase 2, where all of the kiosks are to be placed.
So
And then-
Julie, some of the blocks they vary in length.
Yes, they
Are
do.
you going to, on the ones that are longer, are you going to put in more than one?
No,
Okay, will it be more than 50 feet? What's the maximum distance for the placement from, let's say I'm parking on a block and it's in the middle?
yes,
What's the maximum distance?
I have no idea.
Have to have.
I think people can walk 50 feet.
Sorry?
I think people are able to walk 50 feet.
No, I'm not, the typical standard is about 50 feet.
Okay, yeah, I
I
don't
just don't
know.
know.
I wasn't there. Tom did the walkthrough with ITS and T2, and they were the ones who decided the placement of these things. And
So do you know what the
I
maximum
don't,
is?
but I'm sure they would.
On the longest block, if it's in the center, what is the distance from the first parking spot to the middle of?
well, you know what? On the 25th, when I do the walkthrough with Kevin, we can talk that through and, maybe get a little really doohickey to figure that out. I'm also gonna be walking with Stan, who is one of our parking enforcement guys, just to understand his experience daily, and see what his thoughts are, so that we're including him too, or that group of people too. The survey. I've created a survey for the business community and a survey for residents so that they can give their input as well. The survey for businesses, I sent to Alex Pedreglia of the Business Coalition so that he can get it out to Business Coalition members. And the resident survey will be on our website. You guys have any questions?
What's your thoughts around the special pricing for seniors and people with disabilities?
It will be half. It will be half.
It's your me there.
It'll be half. So the way that I think that'll work is, you will go to the parking bureau, they will have you fill out something saying, yes, I'm 65, or yes, I have this kind of disability. They will then email you after they've processed everything. They're gonna have to go into the back end of the system and put your license plate in, because all of this is working on license plates now. So they'll put your license plate in and it'll come up that, yes, you get 50% off.
I just want to say to the public, be patient with this project.
Yes.
It's a big project, but as Jennifer has made clear, it's important to our revenue stream, but it's also, modernizing the whole parking system. The tyranny of the quarter will no longer prevail.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you won't have people, grabbing out for quarters on the street anymore. But, yeah, so be patient, because it's a big project.
It's gonna take, some getting used to by all of the people who are involved with parking. So it'll be, the parking enforcement guys are gonna have to get used to a couple of things. The people who work in the parking bureau right now, they're gonna have to learn kind of a new system of doing things. So it's gonna be, it'll probably have some bugs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this the same company system that they use in Kingston?
I am not sure. I don't know.
It's been in the region. I'm not sure Kingston, but it's definitely around here.
I know that I think Port Jefferson has it. I think, I think Utica.
was just curious.
Schenectady, maybe. But the text to pay is relatively new.
Any comments from the public, online or in person? Mr. Fain?
Just reminded me a little bit of, I was living in Chicago and the city signed a contract with a vendor for these consoles, and they really got, the contract was very onerous.
Oh,
And in the end, Chicago ended up it became a disaster because they lost a lot of revenue and they had to spend a lot of, there were extra fees that were written in there, and there was all this subscription model, and it's a little bit, there's scams out there, so I just worried one
Are you
thing.
talking about before or after they privatized it?
Both, but the privatizing really
Ruined everything.
ruined
They
it.
saw $8 billion, went crazy, sold their system, and they became worse.
Right, but the
Oh,
contracts can be very
Yes.
excessive and end up, they can have a lot of hidden things in there.
we have hired someone who's done this in multiple communities, who's helped to do this in multiple communities as a consultant. So I feel pretty comfortable with him, and he's looked through everything. I've looked through it, and I've caught one thing already. So I feel pretty confident that we're gonna be okay. Like, but thank you, like, thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you for the warning, Mr. Fain.
Yeah, so I'll keep looking. Anything else? Yeah.
It's a big project. Congratulations, Department Committee, for coming up with the solution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
It's a big project. I mean, it has to happen.
It's a huge project. I've learned so much doing this. It's been kind of incredible.
It really is.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Okay,
guys.
thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Oh, never mind. He had the QR code for the survey if anybody wanted.
Can you, write to Justin to put it on Hudson Hub?
Yes, absolutely. I will. I was planning on it sooner.
Okay. Okay, resolutions. There aren't too many left, so they need you for introduction in a second. The first resolution is a donation to the city Hudson Senior Center. And an introduction in a second. Jennifer and Mark. The next resolution is an annual approval of the firefighter listing program that gives them a service award. It's, I'm sure you're all familiar with from previous years. Can I have an introduction in a second? Jennifer and Mark. The next resolution approves and authorizes the mayor to execute a sub-license agreement with the schooner Apollonia. An introduction in a second, Jennifer and Mark. And the next one is another sub-lease with 3 groups. All of which, by the way, will include, give us a little more revenue this coming year at the waterfront. Can I have an introduction in a second? The next resolution authorizes a memorandum of understanding with the Sylvia Center for Youth Development Programming. It's a free program, as you know, we've done in the past. Can I have an introduction in a second? The next resolution. Is appointing a new member of the Conservation Advisory Council, Nora Mahalik. Can I have an introduction in a second? Oh, Rich and Gary. And before we go down next week, make sure that her credentials are also posted and her statement of interest. Now we have a couple of the resolutions, or one of the where are we here? A Rob resolution to amend revenue lines in the sewer fund. An introduction in a second, please. The next resolution is long, and I hope before next week you get a chance to read it and think about it. But I will, it's kind of a last minute addition. So I want to get it on the record tonight. So
This was not there
it
earlier.
was not there earlier,
When did it go up?
today.
What is it about? I read everything.
Yeah, no, I know.
earlier today. I didn't-
Before I answer that, can I get an introduction in a second? Because it doesn't really make a difference if, we can still defeat it if we don't end it. No?
Yeah, he's got an introduction. He's
Okay,
going to have.
yeah, no,
Before we vote on it.
No, definitely. definitely. So that's what I wanted to just get it introduced, and I want you all to read it carefully. It's kind of, we had the EPTA a number of years ago, it failed. This is to make that process easier on municipalities. As you know, some cities passed the EPTA and it was challenged in court. They all were defeated because they made the process for determining vacancies way too difficult. I don't know if you remember that or not, but, and this kind of makes it easier to determine if you want to go into the program. And I will say that it came endorsed by our Senator Michelle Hinchey. Okay, our next resolution.
So will there be some discussion of this next week? I mean,
Absolutely.
since we're only-
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm anticipating that. Then we have the 4 resolutions that Heather talked about. This is the resolution authorizing budget amendment for the cost of previously approved agreement with Parks and Mobility. Introduction and second, please. Margaret, a budget amendment for the delivery of the fire truck. Jennifer and Margaret. A resolution authorizing a budget amendment to purchase the rescue tools in advance of the delivery of the fire project. Oh, by the way, I know we didn't have a fire report today, but the boat did finally arrive. I don't know if you all saw that. The rescue boat for the. And then the last resolution are the encumbrances that Heather talked about. Margaret and Rich, did you just do it? I couldn't hear. Okay, that's it. We have these laws on our desks. The childcare one, I think we're just waiting to hear back from the planning boards. But if they don't return in time, we can just go ahead with it. And then after we vote, there's a public hearing. And the interference with city offices, it's still at the legal committee. I don't know if you decided to withdraw it.
I thought we had,
To withdraw it completely?
I don't know, Margaret.
Yeah, I thought we did too. The second law mentioned here. Did we
The
decide?
harassment?
Yeah, did we decide to get rid of it, Tony?
I think, I don't know that we decided to get rid of it totally, but certainly,
We're not doing
there's
it.
disagreement about us coming
Yes.
up with misdemeanors.
Right.
And we mean, I think extending the code to include employees, you know, in the code and so forth is fine, but the criminal code of New York State would be sufficient for us.
Okay, we'll figure it out. Anything?
So we're gonna vote on the law for childcare, right? And then
I think we will be able to, yes.
after it, we're having a public hearing?
We don't have the public hearing, the mayor has the public hearing.
Why is
Oh,
there a
wait,
public hearing?
Tom, for
Oh,
the
wait,
childcare one, because it's a zoning amendment, the council does hold the public hearing.
Then we will.
So why don't we have a public hearing before we have vote?
I think we will.
Okay.
I think that's what's implied here.
Thank you.
I didn't understand it myself, that it was first there, but we will.
Yeah.
And I'll schedule. Thank you. So, council members, anything you'd like to talk about? Public, in person, Elena.
Yes, hi, good evening, Elaine Mosey, Operation Night, located here in Hudson. We have been fortunate to receive an opportunity from the Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation, where I was able to choose 2 Democracy Leadership Fellows, which is a prestigious award for them, as well as us for the city. They've been charged with creating a project that would benefit some of our citizens, and our Democracy Fellow is here right now, Daisy Jones, to make an announcement to you all.
Hi, everybody. I came to a couple meetings before when I first started this project, and I came again recently. We're actually opening up the cabinet. So when we made a cabinet, me and Sebastian, he's not here today, he has play practice. But, we basically made a cabinet that's going to have, non-perishable goods and hygiene projects, in the Hudson area library. And, on Thursday, we're having like the opening for it, so I was hoping, and you guys can make it if you'd like to.
Thank you.
What time?
It's at, 6 p.m.
Okay, this Thursday.
Yes.
Thank you. Anybody online or here? Okay, Lloyd.
John, thank you. So I did send you a suggestion for a resolution that
I got it.
you got it.
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't see you propose forwarding it at all. Are you anticipating forwarding the concept of that or something?
Probably not.
Probably not.
What you can do, as you may know, if I don't put it on the agenda, you can try to get 3 council members voting for it.
So just making an argument in why you would choose to adopt. And I believe Gary got it today, and I believe all the other council members got a copy of it. I think in the spirit of the friendly city, Hudson, New York, you would want to support what is proposed in there. Okay, it's a good thing, it's common decency,
Okay.
and I think, I'm sorry, Tom, I'm just not quite done.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm just going to ask that 3 of you, Jennifer, maybe Gary, Mr. Bolo, Margaret, Dominic, whoever's online, that 3 of you would come together and propose that a resolution, as I worded, that you will have a copy of, that we basically support efforts to end human inflicted death and destruction and hostility. Because it does occur. 1,000 deaths a day. How do you bury 1,000 people? So Hudson could lead the way. There's a possibility that this may branch out and has been put on other lines and it may be, adopted elsewhere. So I would be quite happy if Hudson would choose to lead the way in these efforts at basic humanity. So please, all you have to do is put it forward, 3 of you, and then you can vote. And as Margaret said, you can vote it down.
Would you be able?
I didn't say that.
Sorry.
I did not say that. I just said.
No, you can vote, no, but just in general.
No,
If something's proposed, then
no,
you can vote
I
on it.
haven't,
then you-
I haven't seen this. We have not received this.
Oh, you didn't get it?
Gary got it.
I got it. I think you may not have recognized it because it has a very unusual way of coming to us.
But you have to?
Yes, and it says scan from the library. You probably.
no, yeah,
You may have thought that was like a suspicious.
Well, maybe.
I might have deleted it
Get
already.
it, maybe you could forward it to.
I will forward it.
All right. No, if I have it, I'll return
Sure.
it.
Lloyd, would you be able to, working with someone to sort of,
Absolutely, you clean it up, and you can put, your friendly city. I'm just proposing something that I think will be good and make your mother proud.
it's very.
Fellow third son,
She's dead, but anyway.
mine is too.
Tom, I have one other thing I want to.
Yes, please do.
Crystal, you sent us a memorandum earlier on the steps with regard to the charter. So I just wanted to ask, but I did not expect that we would receive it so quickly, but Tracy apparently certified the petitions already.
Yes.
So what are the next steps then? What's the plan?
I'm sorry, but you're,
I'm asking you what the plan is. Are you going to put it on the agenda? I think we have 60 days from now,
60 days.
right? So
I have no intention to put an agenda for a number of reasons that I discussed with Crystal. One is, even if we took it on and decided to make changes to the existing document, which I don't have much respect for, but we'd only have it, we're on their timeline. So it wouldn't give us a hell of a lot of time to do
Oh, yeah,
that.
I get that.
And then secondly, they don't have to pay attention to anything we're doing, giving their time.
That's correct, because if we make changes and they don't like it, they can still just go out and get
That's what I
signatures. But don't you think it would be worthwhile since over 200 people signed this, for us to at least have a discussion.
We could,
I mean, I don't think realistically, there's enough time in that 60 days for us to do
right, to actually revise it.
constructive. But I think it warrants a conversation perhaps.
Okay, let me think about it and talk individually to you and see, you and others, and see what they think. Again,
I don't know what other people think.
right, and I just think it's, what I really don't want to do is get Crystal to involve
Right.
out of our own meetings,
Right.
because then we're spending money, you know.
No, I understand
Right,
that. And there isn't realistically enough time in the 60-day
Right.
window.
But if you just want to talk about the document as it was handed to us here, that's fine.
What I really wanted to know was what the plan was. Are you planning, or like your,
I mean, my plan was to basically ignore it, but, you know, I'll take your advice.
all right.
I'm happy to take your advice.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Where would we have that discussion? Like the formal meeting, this meeting?
I think a party at your house.
Maybe it'd be a separate meeting?
We got a separate meeting. We can do that.
We can have a separate meeting.
We can do that.
We got a separate.
Sure, absolutely.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, or it's worth the discussion. I mean, realistically, do we have the resources and time to actually?
Sure, and we owe it to those who signed the petition to discuss it.
Yeah, sure, sure. Abstractly, because of course, I suspect a lot of people signed the petition didn't read the full document. I don't know. But who knows?
Well, that's what the public meeting,
Right.
you know, come out.
It makes clear what's actually in it.
I mean, I don't know what the expectation of the council would be, because we have 60 days, they've been working on it for 3 years, right? So, I mean,
Dozen years.
well, still a year.
Yeah, it is.
So, you know, I don't think there's any,
Okay.
for 60 days.
So I will schedule a special meeting.
Yeah, I think a special public meeting where the council is here, that we could discuss it amongst ourselves and then accept all the comments. I think that would be.
Yeah, public hearing will be good.
Okay. Good, as long as we don't like it, I just didn't want to get deep into it and try to revise it and then.
But we can't, I think we should do something, right?
Okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn, Margaret.
Motion.
Jennifer, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right.
Anyone opposed?